up all the trees, put them in a tree museum.
There's nothing new about it.
And they charge the people $1.50 just to see them.
By 2035, 44% of Melbourne's trees will be dead or will have been forcibly removed. I wanted to find out if we were doing enough to protect these beautiful, living, breathing things that are so integral to Melbourne's identity. So I spoke to two arborists. They're kind of guardians of the trees, I guess you could say. The first was Barton Allen Hall.
They're just nice old things that just add a nice feeling to the environment, I think. I remember when I was a kid, I used to love driving through the mountains and just driving through the forest and all the trees. It was my favourite part of any trip.
It was obvious from the start that Barton had a lifelong love of trees. I asked him how he feels when he sees those trees cut down.
If you go into someone's backyard and you see a really nice big tree there, it just has a really beautiful, almost magical sort of feel to it. And then if that tree was to be cut down, I'm talking from experience here, you walk into that person's backyard and it just looks like, a sunny, desolate wasteland, really. It completely changes the feel of the place.
But Barton also said there were limitations on what he and other arborists could do to save trees.
If given the choice, I would always save a tree as opposed to remove it. As I'm the climber, I'm not the one usually making the decisions as to whether a tree stays.
So did Barton think he was somehow complicit in the removal of the trees?
Well, I've been in the industry for 10 years, but I think as time goes on and definitely into the future, it's going to be more about looking after the trees and less about removing them, just because there's less trees to remove.
The next arborist I spoke to was Dane Wilton. He's optimistic about the future of our trees in Melbourne.
Yeah, I think Melbourne's quite good with that, absolutely. And I think there's a lot of arborists in Melbourne, or in Victoria in general, that really see themselves as stewards of some of these trees.
Dane said, like in every industry, you hear the odd horror story, but on the whole, we're heading in the right direction.
I mean, you hear some kind of tragic stories about people killing trees for no kind of apparent reason, especially there was a couple in the Botanic Gardens not too long ago. But yeah, for the most part, I think Melbourne's quite good at it, yeah.
And do you see yourself as a guardian or a steward of the trees?
Yeah, absolutely. I think even on a smaller scale, working as an arborist in people's backyards, that's also a really kind of important place for the arborist, is that people have these trees in their gardens, and often people don't really see them as an asset. So as an arborist, to try and enlighten people about the fact that this tree that's hanging over your house, there's just one little part of it that might need to be removed, and maybe you don't need to get rid of the whole thing, and you can impress upon people the value of these trees.
Like Barton, you could instantly tell how besotted Dane was with trees. I wondered if he had a favourite.
Yeah, absolutely, yes, sure. I'd say probably an ironbark, or there's a eucalyptus Nicolai. They're two for me when I see them. They're just beautiful. Yeah, the Nicolai has a really rough bark and very kind of long, thin leaves, but there's something nice that's about that tree. It often looks like it's often quite thick at the bottom, and the trunk tapers up towards the top, and they kind of look like a massive bonsai almost. So they're really nice, and the ironbarks as well are really special. The kind of contrast between that really dark bark and then there's this beautiful pale green leaves and the pink flowers.
As for a tip on how to preserve our trees in the summer?
I think making sure that you have a reasonable program of pruning some of those trees. That can do a lot for the tree's overall health, and I suppose then that will mean that it can carry through a hotter summer for sure.
Sarah Ollie, Australia Plus.
Put up a parking lot.